All right, welcome back everyone to another video. I am in a rush. I am trying to record a bunch of videos for you guys before I head on over to Amsterdam. So I grabbed this Niv-Mizzet list off of MTG Top 8. And unfortunately for the deck's author, Triosk, they didn't actually top 8, came 9th, but it does look pretty strong to me. It's got most of the staples that you're used to, but also just having. I really like the sideboard. I love being able to bring in 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Fatal Push, a Quakebringer to turn off Amalia, Buzz Crusher. I don't think there's enough Lotus out there to really justify this, and against green, by the time you've put Buzz Crusher into play, they've probably gotten a bunch of value off their Nykthos. So I'm skeptical of this card, but overall, sideboard seems like a lot of fun. If you're not familiar with the deck, of course, it's a Yorion deck. It's a Yorion deck built around the card Bring to Light. Can probably bring this preview window over here for you guys. Yeah, so Bring to Light, if you can cast it with 5 different colors of mana, then you get to find a card from your library with that number of different colors or less CMC and play it for free. So it's a toolbox deck, and our tools are pretty good. Mostly they are Niv-Mizzets. So you have Niv-Mizzet Supreme, which sounds like something you'd order at Burger King. And it gives all of your dual-colored instants and sorceries in your graveyard flashback. Or not flashback, jumpstart. Niv-Mizzet Reborn, of course, he's been the main reason to play the archetype for a long time now. Just it gets you a bunch of value every time he comes into play. Omnath, combined with Fabled Passage, which is already necessary to help your mana base, is busted as we remember it. I guess one important interaction to know, if you don't, is that you can fetch Valky for off of your Bring to Light for 2 different colors of mana. And then when you do, you can choose to cast the Tibalt side of it. And that is very frustrating that it works that way, but it does. So those are your tools. In order to get you there, you have Fable, which is the glue of every deck in the format that plays red and is a mid-range deck. You want Fable. What can we say about this card that hasn't already been said? And Ancient Cornucopia, I've been impressed with. When you're casting a lot of multicolored spells and you're doing it on both players' turns, and that can add up. So if you cast Niv-Mizzet on your turn, find a Lightning Helix and cast it on your opponent's turn, you get the 5 life from casting Niv in the first place. And then you get an additional 2 from casting Lightning Helix on their turn. And remember that when you cast something when you Bring to Light, you're not just tutoring the thing into play, you're actually casting the thing. So you can decline the first trigger of Cornucopia when you cast Bring to Light and wait until you hit your 5-color spell, cast that, and then you gain the 5 life instead of the 2, which is better. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the deck list. I'm trying to hit YouTube monetization, by the way, everyone. So I would love to be able to make this a more full-time thing. I'd love to have more time to make these videos. And the way to do that is to make them pay me money. And you do that by getting a certain number of watch hours and likes, or not likes, watch hours and subscriptions. I am a good chunk of the way there. Thank you, everyone who has been getting me to that point without even trying or without even thinking about it. And if you want to help, then you can do the same thing. Feel free to like and subscribe and do everything else that gives me the good YouTube juice and the good brain juice. Anyway, that's it from me. Let's hop into the games and see how they went. Okay. Here we are on the draw. That's a hand of magic cards. All right, so 6 lands and Bring to Light, not going to cut it. Opponent kept 7. We'll send this one back. Petter, I guess. No red. So we can't cast Fable, can't cast Helix. We don't have... Currently, it'll cost 3 to cast Leyline Binding, which we don't have. On the draw, I think we just have to have faith that we'll find the red source. And if we do, Fable can kind of fix everything. So the question, I guess, is what are we most likely to need? Opponent didn't reveal a companion, so it's less likely to be aggro. Makes me think I should put back one of the bindings or the Helix.
Binding is more flexible. Helix is better against aggro specifically. I'm going to put back the Helix. Almost always when it's a aggressive deck, they have a companion. Murkwater Pathway, so it's some Dimir deck, probably Rogues or Control, one or the other. We'll find out. Probably Control, I would think. Okay, so far we've drawn the Scrybug Lightning Helix and a Vanishing Verse that we also can't cast with Basic Island. So it's gone about as badly as it could go. Okay, it is Rogues. Probably want to stop on my end step then. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. They're going to attack us. We're going to mill a bunch of red lands. Okay, 2 lands, of course. Not red ones, but either one of those would have let us cast Binding. Okay, untap land. Okay, that does work. That turns on Leyline Binding at least. Because that gives us the forest we didn't have. If opponent taps out a blue here, I'm interested in binding the thief, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they're going to tap out a blue. They did pause before damage, so they were probably thinking about an extra effect that would have made this do more, and decided not to do it. They might have a second Thought Thief. Okay, yeah, they do. All right, so before that touches the board even, we're going to go ahead and binding that Thought Thief. And next turn we have Binding or Vanishing Verse, whichever one pleases us. If we draw a red source, then we have both Helix and Vanishing Verse, and if it's a mountain, we have both Helix and Binding. It does feel like this blue tempo-y deck is probably pretty good against us. Yeah, there goes a red source. We lost Vanishing Verse and Sacred Foundry. Okay. Opponent plays another black source, so 2 things. Probably a land light hand, because they played Takenuma, and specifically a blue light hand. Actually, they probably have no more lands in hand, is what I'm getting from that. So they have 4 bangers. We, I think, just have to say go again. Vanishing Verse does not hit Soaring Thought Thief, so binding it will have to be. We also need to be wary of having 7 cards in our graveyard. Okay, that's interesting. So if I Vanishing Verse this, we go to 5 cards in the graveyard. Thought Thief attacks, we go to 6. They don't have the 7 to cast into the story if they have it. And they don't have 8 to pump the Thieves Guild Enforcer. I think this touches the board. And... oops. And we'll Vanishing Verse it while we can. 4 draw steps, not finding a red source, I do think is pretty unlucky. Oh, okay. Cling to Dust, target Vanishing Verse. So that's probably good for us. It could mean that their hand is like removal, because they haven't played another creature yet, and you have to imagine if they had one, they would. So we know that their hand isn't lands. They have at most 1 here, probably, because they played Takenuma last turn. And it's not creatures, so what else is it besides something like Drown in the Loch or Kill Spells? I suppose it could always be Nighthawk Scavenger? Blood Crypt. They probably play some number of Spell Pierce. Maybe, maybe not. The Blood Crypt completes our domain. So we do have Helix plus Binding here. I think Drown in the Loch is a much more likely card than Spell Pierce, although they did tap out, leaving 1 blue mana open, so I kind of suspect Spell Pierce has an effect. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to shock in the Blood Crypt, and I'm going to Helix now. We're going to Helix the Scavenger. Oh, no effects at all there, so no Spell Pierce. In that case, I think we just Binding here. Cool. All right. In paper, I don't think I make that Leyline Binding play. I think I would hold it, but knowing that they were F6'd, definitely into casting the Binding. Next turn, shields are probably down, or, I mean, we'll play Fable. Veto not at its best. Go ahead and cast the Fable. It's not like we're doing anything else. If this resolves, it's big game for us. I doubt it will. You have to imagine Drown in the Lock or something is in their hand. Yep. You have a creature. A fairy mastermind. All right. And now we're just like windmill slamming Nivs if we get an untapped land. We've kind of been at the mercy of the top of our deck this whole game, so. Okay. I suppose buying Yori and hold up Veto is also an option, but I don't think so. All right, what do we need? We need green and white. I assume this gets drowned as well, but we can't do nothing, and buying Yorion and playing it is so much weaker than just jamming the 5-drop flyer this turn. Yep. They have one card left. It's not a creature. Kaito is here. Okay. So Kaito leaving up 2 suspicious mana. 2 cards in hand. Cornucopia is not the worst. There is a world where we just Cornucopia by Yorion here, right? And then we just gain 5 by casting the Niv the following turn. Sure. This also plays around Spell Pierce. Doesn't play around Drown in the Lock, I guess. And I should have kept up Veto. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking I wanted to keep up red. Yeah, that's a pretty big mistake. Okay, they did have the Spell Pierce. So luckily it was only Spell Pierce and not Drown. It does mean that we don't get to buy Yorion this turn. But it does mean also, of course, that we're going to draw 5, or we're going to gain 5 off the casting of Niv. They're drawing a bunch of cards off this Kaito. Another Scavenger. Got to admit, I'm not loving this. Passage. Okay. So that's not a bad draw because we can veto right back. I need to make sure that I have veto mana available when I cast Niv. So here's blue, black, red. This will end up fetching up plains. All right, gaining 5 feels real good. And okay, we're off to the races here. Shieldred's Edict is here. That's their last card. I'm down to counter that. Ugh. Okay, what are we going to get? We're going to get a Pillage the Bog, we're going to get a Veto, and one of Molten Collapse or K Command. Molten Collapse answers Kaito. K Command hits whatever their last card is and hits Fairy Mastermind. I think Kaito's the bigger problem. Niv is stuffing their board pretty good right now. We are not blocking this. There's also, I suppose, a world where we Molten Collapse the Fairy and then just attack Kaito with Niv. That loses to a counter and kill spell in the opponent's hand. Whereas Molten Collapsing Kaito directly only loses to counter. Well, okay. Leyline Binding's helpful, of course. So I think that's the play then. I think we're going to Molten Collapse Fairy, try to kill Kaito with Niv, and failing that, we can Binding. And otherwise, we get to Binding the Nighthawk Scavenger. And all the while, we're gaining life here. Okay, they're going to try to get their card off of Fairy. So now they can't have two things to both counter this and kill Niv. Okay, go ahead and go to combat. Swing at Kaido. And then we have 5 mana left. One of it is going to be spent on binding this Nighthawk. If they had a way to counter the binding, they would have countered the kill spell to save Kaido. So I think I'm into just casting the binding now. That leaves us with 4 mana open. So we can do that, we can pillage, and then we can hold up veto. So I think it's this. I think it's binding first, because Spell Pierce makes some sense. And this is the thing that must resolve. Then we can cast Pillage. We won't gain the life. It seems okay. I guess they could have like a Brazen Borrowy effect. So if they like bounce the Cornucopia, then they get around veto if I tap that way. All right. Well, we have choices. Probably none of them better than just Fable. Yeah. And if we untap, then I think the game is effectively over. It's also going to be hard for them to mill out our 80 card deck, so we've got that going for us. We're at 50 cards remaining. Go to 11. And do we get to turn the corner now? Hinterland Harbor. All right, so if I start attacking here and they have a bunch of creatures in hand, how bad is that for me? Well, let's see if we can get them to bite on this. So if they do something I want to veto, I'll gain less life by doing this, but there's always a chance I'll be able to veto something on their turn, I guess. Yeah, we'll just gain the 1. All right, that resolves. So we can attack, or like if the worst case is they like Thought Thief, and then just put a ton of pressure on us. So, I don't actually feel the need. I'm just going to buy Yorion. Say go, keep Niv back as a blocker. I think we win the long game here. More than happy to trade this Goblin with their Thieves Guild Enforcer if that's what they're reduced to next turn. What is this? Oh, Cling to Dust maybe? Cling to Dust target Fable. I think that's fine. On the one hand, I want to get some use out of this veto. On the other, casting it next turn gains me 2 life off the Cornucopia. And also, it's a card I can discard to Fable. Fatal Push the Goblin Shaman. Am I into vetoing this? Maybe. This does Death Touch. That, I think, is enough for me to fight over. Okay. Well, their hand was pretty good. Luckily, this only buffs the Thieves Guild Enforcer's power, not toughness, so it does still trade with the Goblin. We have a Yorion coming. All right, well, they insist. Wow. Yeah, we can't block here, right? It's just malpractice to block here. I don't think we attack before casting Yorion here, though, because if they do have a Drown in the Lock for Yorion, then I want to have a blocker back, basically. So how much do we have? We have 3, 6, 7, 8 mana. All right, so they know we have this Yorion. And it just touches the board. Fantastic. So now we get to blink the Niv and the Fable. Could have blinked the Cornucopia, actually, as well. Definitely should have done that. I'm not going to cast Pillage here, because I think there's a reasonable chance that we'll hit something off the Niv coming back in that we want to cast, like a Lightning Helix or something. Consecrate Consume. Like Vanishing Verse is just better. And in their upkeep, I think I'm going to Vanishing Verse the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Or not. I guess maybe I could have even done it in their upkeep anyway to gain the life off the cornucopia, but I don't know. It's so tempting to kill it when they don't have counter magic available. Our hand is essentially perfect here. Do you attack? No. Great. Abrupt Decay, huh? All right. Let's start here. Gain 5 off the cornucopia. Feels nice. Fatal Push. Goblin. Sure. This we can do safely in their upkeep to gain 2 more life. Or we can, we can attack and see what they do, right? If they double block, then we get to blow them out. Smart for them to hit the Lightning Helix, because if I fetch the other Niv, then I get to, it has Jumpstart, I can flash it back. Okay. Omnath or Lightning Helix? Or Valky, I guess. I think it's just Helix. Oh my god, it's Lightning Helix, etc., etc. Okay, green and black. Pillage. Just another Helix, I guess, right? Go to their upkeep. That one dies to Helix, so I still think I'm going to Abrupt Decay the Thought Thief. All right, opponent 2 cards in hand. We are at 16 with 10 power in the air and a Lightning Helix in hand that they don't know about. Make it 1 card in hand. So it's just Helix the Fairy. Go for lethal. They can force the draw. Like, force a draw off the Mastermind, but I'm fine with that. Do we win? Hello, opponent. Great. Okay, so that match, or that game took half an hour. Sorry for that. Okay. Well, I mean, that seems pretty good, given that they're milling us. All right, so I want these disputes, all the fatal pushes. Honestly, Quakebringer as like punishment for them milling us is also not the worst. I don't know how I feel about the Thought Seizes. We can have this as like a maybe pile. What don't I like? Niv Supreme seems fine. I felt like Dovin's Veto wasn't the best. Vanishing Verse was okay. It's kind of hard to get rid of anything that that kills something cheaply at instant speed. I think 4 Beanstalks is too many. I don't know that I want to get rid of all of them. Helix is great. Maybe trim on the pillages because they're kind of slow. And also, like, we might get to a point where we don't have enough cards in a library to tutor for anything important. So we can do this as is. And that lets us... And that means we don't bring in any of the Thought Seizes. K-Command also feels like expensive and clunky. So much of the time their stuff is bigger than 2 toughness. Abrupt Decay is, of course, excellent. Binding is great. Consecrate Consume is like... So I can either I can do this and bring in 2 Thought Seizes, or I can do this and keep 2 Beanstalks instead and not bring in any Thought Seize. Knowing what's in their hand is great, but it feels lazy to bring in Thought Seize because like damaging ourselves is bad, and we can probably work out what's in their hand like we were doing all game there. Let's keep the 2 beans, cut the Thought Seizes, cut this. Not sure this is right. Hand is okay. We can keep this. They shock in Watery Grave. Very likely they have Fatal Push, or they have a fatal pushable creature, of course. I think I'm in. I think I'm going to shock this in. Because it costs 2 life here. And it's true that Fatal Push here probably only saves 2 life. But if they're allowed to get Enforcer down, and then I have to untap, and they'll have 2 mana open, and I try to Fatal Push the Enforcer, then they can either drown in the lock, maybe, or actually definitely, or they can flash in another rogue and trigger the Thieves Guild Enforcer. So I think not letting them establish a board presence at all is pretty good. The downside, of course, is that it currently keeps us from casting Fable on 3. It was our only untapped land. But I don't know that I would have tapped out on 3 anyway. One plays tap land, says go. It's fine with us. It's also not bad. That's our blue source for next turn. All right, and here's what we were waiting for. This was basically face up, of course. They hit a mountain and a vanishing verse. Invasion of Amonkhet. Huh. Like all the cards in my hand. So we're going to resolve Fable next turn. I think it's going to be Harbor, Fable, and that will solve our land problems, hopefully. So I'm actually going to pitch the Xander's Lounge. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. I'm going to pitch Niv. And honestly, I think Bring to Light. Great. I value this treasure now, I'm pretty sure. Do I? Because they'll be able to attack the invasion. I think we don't actually attack, sorry. I think I am going to... I'm going to shock this Stomping Ground. Well, shit. Actually, this doesn't work, right? Because we don't have full domain. We don't have an actual island. Oops. Okay, well, at least... At least we can bluff Dispute here. Might make him think. Should have attacked. Oh, okay, great. So now we do have Binding up. Okay. I wanted to do this on their turn to gain the life, but them tapping out, I think, means I have to do this. Oh, this was my first spell this turn anyway. Cool. After the Cornucopia. Interesting choice. I'm going to hit the Thought Thief. If they don't have removal, then we can block with the Goblin Shaman here. It's currently only a 3-power creature, so it doesn't flip the invasion if it hits anyway. And if they tap out main phase to buff the Thieves Guild Enforcer to the point where it hits it would kill the invasion, then their shield's down on us jamming Niv or Omnath. And either way, we're going to gain 5 next turn anyway. I guess they do get their own Niv. Okay. So if we attack with the Goblin Shock Stomping Ground, then we can dispute and pay for Omnath. We can play Omnath through a dispute. But then we don't get a land drop immediately after. All right. Red, white, green, blue. I'm just going to play Omnath out. And if they dispute it, fine. I do have to pick up the pace, though. Sorry if I talk less as we go on here. I think we're in okay shape to win this game, too. But if we don't, it's going to be very, very hard for us to win game 3. All right. Mastermind's cute. I was hoping there'd be an always yes option for that, but it doesn't seem to be. Okay. Disputes, great. I think, going to try to get this treasure. I guess this is bad, right? Like, technically, if they trade here, it enables Revolt for Fatal Push, and they can do it in my end of combat step. But never punished. Everything's fine. Pretty sure I'm down to trade Omnath with the Thieves Guild Enforcer if they swing. We're going to fight. for our right to party. I'm sorry. Just every time. It's never not funny. Yeah, totally down to do this. Okay, let's see if Niv resolves here. I guess I'm supposed to attack first with the goblin to pay, like to have the mana to pay for dispute. All right, stroke wouldn't have mattered. Could have bought Yorion, I suppose. Feel like I want these treasures to play around their like soft counter spells. If they had a dispute, they certainly would have used it that turn. So this is going to flip. They're going to get their own thing. I don't know what you get. Like, you can get my Niv. Their deck isn't really built around it, right? They're only going to get one hit. I guess that hit's probably Drown in the Lock. No, they took an Invasion of Amonkhet, which they immediately play. We're going to lose the Bring to Light. But they are at 8. I'm just going to swing out. Cool. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. We can buy and replay. We can buy and play Yorion. That's cute. Yeah, I think I actually do want a binding the Lazatep thing. Can even hit the Fairy Mastermind, I suppose. And then they don't draw their card. Maybe that's better. Nah, it's got to be this. Oh, it's Lightning Helix. You have 4/5 blocker in the air now. They do have 6 cards in hand, but we have 2 lethal threats and a Lightning Helix. Sure. So this bounces Yorion. They can get in, kill their invasion, get another Niv. We still have 2 more Lightning Helix in the deck. A lot of good draws. They also need to kill us twice in 5 minutes, so their time is also a factor. They hit... They whiffed altogether. They completely whiffed on their Niv. They did Thoughtseize away our Helix. Sure. I'm actually toying with blinking the binding again. Yep. All right. Sucks, but all right. Definitely swinging with Omnath here, forcing the trade. I'm just going to play the Spire's Headquarters and say go. Like, they're just at 2. They're dead to any Lightning Helix off the top. 2 of them gone, 2 to go. Oh. Okay. They get they get Niv back again, for God's sake. Oh shit! They hit Emrakul. I didn't notice that. Oops. Okay. Well. Uh-huh. That's pretty scary. So they failed to target me with the Emrakul. But is it say if you cast it? Oh yeah, it is a cast trigger. It's just a big dumb Eldrazi. Okay, so we are very dead at this point. So it's just a matter of clock equity. So I'm not even going to bother. Purely to delay. I thought it was actually going to give me more life than that. Okay, so this game is not going to end. So we need to take out like the slow stuff. I'm down to board out Emrakul here. Like, we just need to kill them as quickly as we possibly can. I could just like, you know, F6, try to kill them, but they have 3 minutes. That's enough for rogues to kill us. So we are the ones who need to do some work here. We're not going to have time for an up the beanstalk kind of game. Maybe Notion Thief, Thoughtseize. Vanishing Verse doesn't seem great. Maybe I want to do this. Molten Collapse is maybe a little better than Vanishing Verse, because we're going to be trying to kill them. Man, this is one of the downsides of playing like this kind of deck for content, because I know that if I weren't speaking, I would, like, if I wasn't talking through plays, I would probably have 2 or 3, maybe 4 more minutes on the clock here. And that would definitely make all the difference. As it is, we just got to go fast. I might not say a word. They're just F6ing. Yeah, they're just saying, hey, kill me. Just get rid of all the stops on their turn. We're definitely going to get there. Oh, they decided they needed to play. Look at you. Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing you can try to do as the opponent, but like, if I keep any reasonable hand and you don't do anything, I can definitely beat you in 3 minutes, right? It is only hard to beat you in 3 minutes when I have to play an actual game of Magic. But, you know, turn 4 or 5/5 flyer, pretty good at ending the game very quickly. Okay, 1-0. I do think we earned that one. I think that I think we played well enough to win that match. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, on the play. Yeah, this is fine. What do we lead on? Is it Fabled Passage? Fabled Passage for planes? We don't have a green source. Green is probably the most important thing. Let's play the Blood Crypt. And if we think that it's worth holding up Helix, then we can play the Clifftop Retreat. Otherwise, next turn we can play the Fabled Passage Fetch Forest. And it gives us one more turn to draw a land and see what the best fetch is. Okay. We are definitely Lightning Helixing that. All right, and there's blue. So eventually we will fetch green. As is. Slow down over there. All right, so now, unfortunately, these don't count as lands with types because they're not lands with types. So if I Fable Passage here, my domain will be 3. Leyline Binding will cost 3. I won't be able to cast it. If I play Sulfur Falls, my domain's only 2, so it'll cost 4. I still won't be able to cast it. I think that just means I'm supposed to play the Sulfur Falls and say go. If I kind of like playing up the Fable Passages, but I also like holding them in case we draw an Omnath or something. If I have to go grab a forest next turn, then I guess I will. But yikes. That's a lot of devotion over there. We can binding one of the havens, but at this point I don't think it does the job. So now we're probably in the business of binding whatever big thing they play. And unfortunately, reasonably likely that they have Beseiju. So Oath of Nissa hit Oath of Nissa. They play Oath of Nissa again, and they find a forest. Okay. Or no, they hit an elf. Okay. So that's everything. That's a lot of mana. Can't argue with that. Beans. Okay, well, now we're just going to go fetch green, I guess. We're not going to be able to both beans and binding. Does that mean I'm supposed to just hold binding then? Because if they explode next turn with, like, Kiora, Old Growth Troll, bunch of crap, I think we need to let them just have a turn. Maybe I can spook them. By holding up blue, that is. This represents Veto, and that's a card that's definitely in my range. Cav. Yep. So we drew Fable off of the beans. So next turn we'll be able to Fable. We can fetch an island with this passage, and we'll hold up binding. I guess we can fetch any basic with this passage, but yeah, no fear Shakespeare here. Representing Veto, but that is a problem for them that doesn't get any better if they wait, so I'm sure casting this is the right thing for them to do. And they're going to have a turn. Worst case is them hitting like Kiora plus 4-power creature, or Kiora plus Leyline of the Guild Pact, or maybe Kiora plus Nykthos. Although I guess they wouldn't. Oh, wow. Okay. So that was. They always hit Kiora. Every time. I don't hit Kiora when I play that deck, but they always do. So if they can generate a bunch of mana here, then they could flip the Oddity. Okay. Could have been worse. That completes our domain, right? No, actually, we don't have a plains. How much mana do they have next turn? Their devotion is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, down to 13, up to 21. So they're going to be able to flashback Storm no matter what I do. And of course, like they just have a billion mana. The only reason to hit Kiora here with the binding, I think, would be to prevent them from drawing, like hope they don't have any gas. I suppose there's a world where we can Leyline Binding now and hit Consecrate Consume off of the Beanstalk trigger, that is. Gross. So no matter how I slice it, my domain is only going to be 4, which means Leyline Binding is going to cost 2. I guess I can have 3 mana open. I need to make that decision now because I want Binding to cost less, right? So I need to decide whether I'm playing Fabled Passage or Lounge now. I think it's Fabled Passage. This deck's scary. All right, so now we get to Binding here. Okay, we draw Xander's Lounge. So I think that means the only real play here. I mean, they get to flip this is the thing, right? What does this do on the back? Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. So I think anything that doesn't involve hitting this just kills us. It's an 8/8. They certainly have the mana to flip it. That'll be 8, 14, 16. I guess it's not quite enough. But any creature screws us. Yeah, it's got to be this, unfortunately. And even then, we're probably still dead to Beseiju hitting the Leyline Binding. All right.
Well, here's Fable. Do your thing. So at minimum, they get a bunch of flashback Storm the Festivals here. I think it will be a minor miracle if we're not dead. And honestly, even if we untap, I don't know what we're playing for. I guess, like, we're hoping that they play a bunch of creatures out to the board, don't quite kill us. We draw Sunfall off of Fable and live to fight another day. They did mill a Storm the Festival off of that Cav, which I'm sure is about to be cast. I guess maybe they should activate Kiora first, in case they hit another Kiora off of Storm the Festival. These draws for mono green just feel kind of unstoppable. Like, sometimes you hit their elf and they're stranded because they kept like land, elf, and bunch of 3-drops. But we were on the play. We had the turn 1 answer to the turn 2 answer to their elf, and they just untapped, played Haven, untapped, played Haven, Oath. And that's just so consistent when you have the 8 mana dorks and 4 more Wolfwillow Havens and the Oath of Nissas find whatever you're missing. Okay, so we are just hosed, right? Doesn't matter at all then. All right, well, we'll let them kill. This is this is what I'm saying, right? This is a turn 5 kill through a reasonably good draw from us and interaction, and it just does not matter. On the draw, even, like, this is terrifying. We are super dead. I don't know why they're just screwing around, but I'm going to let them play with themselves for a while. Maybe I shouldn't. I got places to be. You got places to be. We're very dead. I think this is the first time I've shown this deck really going off on the channel, though, so I'm torn. Like, maybe I want you guys to see it. Nah, I got stuff to do. I'm trying to record a bunch of content before we go away to Amsterdam. I think you've seen it. I think you've seen enough. Eventually, they're gonna, figure out that they can flip the oddity and kill us. Okay, so mono green. Notion Thief seems cool. They don't have great ways to kill it. It basically turns off Kiora as a card draw mechanism, so they can just run out. Krenko's Buzz Crusher is interesting as just like a threat that can hit a Nykthos. Fatal Pushes, pretty good. Hits the elves. Consecrate Consume hits Storm the Festival, and obviously the Consume side gains us a bunch of life. Certainly want the Thought Seizes. So we have to ask, I guess, the question, who is the beatdown? And I think their late game is better than anything we can do. How much are we realistically discounting this Emrakul? We can get land, instant sorcery, creature in the graveyard pretty easily. So it gets a 4 discount. It still costs 9. Yeah, I don't think we want Emrakul here. Sunfall seems great. Definitely want that. Veto's great. Molten Collapse hitting Planeswalkers is big. I feel like I want almost everything. Guess I'll cut Abrupt Decay, K Command, some number of Buzz Crusher, I guess. Consecrate Consume. I'm just out of time. Did I get there? It said submission received. I guess we're playing with Emrakul. All right, so far no evidence one way or the other whether we have successfully sideboarded. Okay, does it matter? Yeah, no choice here really beyond playing Sparrow's Headquarters. Mana Confluence is a card that I am torn on. I guess when you're playing the Cornucopias, it's not that bad. Okay, we have successfully sideboarded. So now we have a choice of what to do on turn 2. We can Valky hit... I mean, they didn't play an elf. Valky does not hit Kiora. They can't Kiora next turn. So if I play Valky next turn, they'll have 4 mana. I'll be able to Thoughtseize plus Veto. Sure. Playing the Swamp means I can't cast Omnath on 4. Is that a big deal? Maybe. maybe it's a big deal. So I'll just play the Mana Confluence here. See what they're working with. Trailblazer, Oddity, Invasion of Ixalan, Woeful Haven. So which of these do I want? So if they kill Valky, they get one of these back to their hand. I mean, honestly, turning Valky into a Trailblazer and then playing Omnath is kind of a big game, right? So they have one unknown in hand. What's our play? We can... It's awkward. We can Thoughtseize first and see what's up, but we have to make our land decision before we do that, because if we do that first, then we won't be able... If we do that with the Mana Confluence, we won't be able to hold up Veto. But playing Swamp now means I don't have the 4th mana next turn to... Yeah, it's just Thoughtseize Veto here. And if we have to wait a turn on Omnath, so be it. So we take this with the intention of vetoing this. I feel like this has to get countered. They're just on empty at this point. 3 forests in hand and an elf, sure. Bring to light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana next turn. They're in top deck mode. Killing the elf means they would only have 5 mana next turn, so a Storm the Festival doesn't hurt as bad. I mean, it'll be one more turn away. I gotta look up Krenko's Buzz Crusher. No, Krenko's Buzz Crusher only targets non-basic, so I can't make them sack that. Because I am very tempted to just play tap land, turn Valky into this, and play Omnath next turn. I think we're just going to try to fade a top deck for a turn. No, don't you do it. Oh, they plot a Trailblazer, sure. Sunfall. Perfect, perfect. Well, Swamp doesn't cast Omnath, which I guess might have been a useful piece of information to know. Yeah, I can't do anything. So what's better? Is it better to buy Yorion, or is it better to Molten Collapse the Elf? I think it's better to buy Yorion. Because if they play the Trailblazer next turn, hopefully we just draw on tap land and we can Sunfall everything away. We love that. That's phenomenal. That's a lair. So they still have just that forest in hand. They're not willing to play the Trailblazer until they have a creature that will immediately get value, which makes sense. Yeah, this just lets us bring to light. What am I fetching? Just Niv, right? Yeah. Okay. I guess that's a hot Magic Online tech. If you just tap for Wooburg playing this deck, you occasionally just get the scoops. Okay, so now what? I have another 3 minutes to torture myself over this. I did decide that Emrakul wasn't very good. It still felt pretty bad there. I think some number of Beanstalks. I think this is what I was saying I was going to cut some number of, but I couldn't work the arena or the Magic Online interface fast enough. Yeah, Pillage the Bog feels slow. We're on the draw, so I'm actually like sort of tempted by these disputes to tag Kiora. And then 2 Helix. I do want all 4 cornucopias, I think. Maybe this is it. This hits Kiora, actually, so maybe that's just better than Molten Collapse. And maybe Molten Collapse is better than Lightning Helix. Alright, so we got there. I think this is it. Only thing I'm not sure of is the disputes. Okay, so no untapped black on 1. However, if we draw untapped black, then this hand is great. They've mull to 5, so being able to Thoughtseize them after a mull to 5 should be a great advantage for us, obviously. I don't know why I speak sometimes. You guys know that. You guys are smart. Here's Watergrave. Thoughtseize, yeah. Storm, Kiora, Wolf Willowhaven. I'm like fairly tempted just to take Storm. Next turn they Forest Wolf Willowhaven. We have Abrupt Decay for Kiora when they play it. Storm's the only thing we just don't have a clean answer to. If we take Haven, we could just strand them on land, but almost everything in their deck is like a 1-drop that makes land or a land, so that seems ambitious. I'm just going to take Storm. So, yep, this is just Woodland Cemetery, Abrupt Decay Kiora on end step. Or, I mean, they could have like Kiora here and with the intention of untapping the Wolf Willowhaven, trying to play another creature. So we can wait and see what they put on the stack. Oath of Nissa. Sure. So I'm going to let this resolve rather than kill Kiora here, because I want them to think that if one of these cards is Kiora, that they don't need to take it. And now we'll just kill the Kiora. All right, so 1 unknown card in hand. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. Fatal Pushing the Elf feels like it has to be right. I'm also like torn on playing the Spara's Headquarters or not. So what happens if I play Godless Shrine tapped here next turn? I'll have white, green, blue, red to play Omnath. Because we're flooded. Like if I play Spara's Headquarters and flood out from here, I'll be upset that I didn't keep that to cycle. Sure. Have to play Mountain next turn, of course. Draws and says go. We're just jamming Omnath. Red, white, green, blue. Find Bring to Light, that's cast. Red, white, green, blue, and we need black. Okay, so if I play the plains here, we get to Bring to Light. Opponent played a tapped Lair of the Hydra. So their hand is like all 5-drops, it seems like. The worst thing that can happen to me probably is, I guess, Nykthos Kiora thing. So I don't think there's a reason to hold up Notion Thief here. I think we just go for this. White, red, black, green, blue. Just get Tibsky. Tibsky or Niv. If I play a Planeswalker, they can animate Lair. Niv Supreme lets me recast the Thoughtseizes and make their life hell, but doesn't get me value right away. Right, I'm going to take Niv Reborn. We hit Bring to Light, Vanishing Verse. So next turn we can shock in, Bring to Light, Niv, Supreme, Flashback, Thoughtseize. Although I guess we can't because of mana reasons. My only untapped mana is the Sacred Foundry, and that duplicates my Plains and Mountain. So one of the Plains or Mountain wouldn't get tapped, and that doesn't cast Thoughtseize. So we need a little help. But realistically, it might just be better to hold up Notion Thief, because if they start going off with Kiora, having like blanking their draw step seems pretty good. Also, you know, low-key Vanishing Verse excellent against the mono green deck, of course. If they don't do anything this turn, then I don't know what's going on. It would just have to be like their hand is like Cav, Storm, like some combination of those cards. Plot Trailblazer. I think they're dead. Okay. That's annoying. I still think they're dead. So we have enough for Notion Thief, Vanishing Verse. We can Bring to Light again. I kind of like I think their play is going to be the Trailblazer and then cast something, and then we can flash in Notion Thief. So we can shock in Cornucopia, hold up Thief. Sure. Also has the effect of somewhat fixing our mana. You have a Trailblazer. Okay, so they're going to get up to their 5 mana here. If they have Land Storm, we can wait until they make their choice, and then with the draw trigger on the stack, we can flash in the Notion Thief, so we don't have to let them know that they're not going to draw their cards. Opponent's having some connection issues. All right, so here's Cav. See how they stack? Okay, they stack this way, so we don't get to let them make their Cav choice. Man, Notion Thief stealing someone's draw and getting a Thoughtseize. That should be against the law. All right, so we get to Vanishing versus the Cav. Which mana? 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a Fabled Passage, which is an excellent draw. Yeah, we're just doing it. Thoughtseize. You. And Storm. Okay, we have a boatload of mana. What's the exile? I mean, it's Cav for sure. Yeah. I mean, we were going to bring to light. I don't know what we were going to bring to light for. That's all I was thinking of. I think it was probably... It was just going to be Valky minus target Trailblazer, swing for 7. And with Notion Thief in play, I don't think there's a way for them to come back. They could like animate a giant lair, hit Tybalt, but still be dead on the crackback. Okay, that felt pretty good. On to the next one. Okay, on the play. Yeah? Is this the first time we've kept 7? We're keeping 7. So I feel like the turn 1 land drop is one of the most important decisions of the game. If we play Jetmir's Garden and top deck... Actually, if we play Jetmir's Garden and then play Xander's Lounge, that's the full domain, which means we have binding on 2. So I think that's it. Okay. Okie dokie. I think that elf needs to die. From the last game, I think that's pretty clear. So it's going to be Xander's Lounge and then bind it, and then next turn, unfortunately, Cornucopia, unless we draw another binding, we won't be able to do anything with that mana right away. Nevertheless. Okay, so we successfully blanked their turn 2. They didn't have a Wolf Willowhaven or second elf. They have 6 cards in hand. Kiora almost assuredly. So now we have a choice. If they just jam Kiora next turn, it would be very nice to have the Goblin Shaman token in there. And I guess both of those technically ramp us, so that's what we'll do. I need more blue, or do I need more black? Blue, usually. Okay, Beseju, target, Leyline Binding. Sure. I guess that was a reason to play the Cornucopia. Because then if they Beseju something, I can fetch untapped land and then Helix the elf that comes back. So maybe I should have seen that coming. Probably. So now we're here. Just for Fiend's Tower, I guess. Yeah, that's the difference between them having a Llanowar Elf and not. That's not so bad. We are definitely in. All right, so we found Bring to Light, and life is good. I don't know what we are bringing to light. We can just bring to light Sunfall. That seems incredibly weak, though. We can also wait on Bring to Light. We can attack Cornucopia K command the elf, make him discard. We can attack Cornucopia Lightning Helix the elf, and then that makes the Kolaghan's command better later when they have fewer cards in hand. Two damage to the elf, and you discard a card if you please. And I'll gain 2. Maybe, yeah, looking at this now, maybe it was right to bring to light, like to wrath the board if I'm going to this turn, because now, like this past turn, because Fable's going to flip, and now if I wrath, I need to get rid of this. Which is kind of gross. But now there's no need to wrath at all, right? We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana here, which lets us Helix, bring to light Niv, and have 1 left over for a Leyline Binding. Right? Right. As long as we tap correctly, which I'm definitely very good at doing all of the time. Need to make sure I keep white open, basically. So we'll start here. No, because we'll cast Niv off the Bring to Light. Now we can attack. All right, blue, black, red, white, and green. Yeah, sure. That was going to be pretty good for us. This is the second time someone's just scooped to me tapping mana. I guess once I start paying, they know I have something. Because I don't think you can start paying on Magic Online without a thing to actually pay into. So, mono green. Did I learn my lesson about sideboarding? Probably not. We're on the draw. I brought in the disputes. We didn't see them at all. We were into this. Cut the K command. Forget what I did. Consecrate Consume didn't feel good. Veto's fine. Versus great. Collapse and Abrupt Decay, definitely. So we need 9 cuts. Don't think I want this game to go super long. So cutting the beans seems good. I think I'm going to cut all the helixes on the draw. On the play, I'll bring them back in, but I want room for the mystical disputes. And 3 more cuts. What are they? Trim and Omnath, maybe. Maybe I just shouldn't bring in the disputes. Maybe that's Thoughtseize's job. We'll try this. I don't really want to cut anything else. Am I going to keep this? It has turn 1 Thoughtseize. It has Dovin's Veto. It has so much removal. A tutor. I just need to draw land. Even if I miss land for a turn, maybe it's okay. I'm going to keep this. I don't love it. All right, here's Elves, and we have a Fatal Push. If we Thoughtseize, then there's the danger that they have 2 pieces of 2 3-drops. So I think the right thing to do here is just Fatal Push this Elf. We did not draw the land, for the record. Another Elf. And a Nykthos. We don't find land. So we can kill the Elf, and the next turn they have 3 mana. They could use that to resolve Kiora. Once Kiora is on board, we don't really have a great answer to her. If we Thoughtseize instead, then if they have Kiora, we can take it. If they have 2, then that's tough. Their hand is probably land light if they're just playing Nykthos out. Maybe, maybe not. Hard to say. Maybe looking at next turn, we have Hinterland Harbor coming in tapped. We're going to want to hold up Veto. I think we have to Thoughtseize. Mystic Troll Oddity. So Vanishing Verse is a good answer to the Troll. They have double Nykthos. So if I take the Troll, they might not be able to even cast the Oddity next turn. They'd be forced to cast the Mystic. We actually can't cast Vanishing Verse either with our current land situation. I'm going to take the Troll. They did find the land. We have no land types. So that is a pricey Leyline Binding. We did whiff on 3 consecutive draw steps. We can pillage the bog looking for... It's probably what we have to do. And this lets us go 4 deep. Kind of embarrassing. You find Xander's Lounge. Yeah, I mean, we just need anything that contributes to our domain here. But we could just die. They have a lot of mana now. Wow. Okay. So they have 1 card left in hand, and it's Nykthos. We are not making it easy on ourselves. We more or less have to Vanishing Verse. So does it matter how we do that? Like if I hold up mana here, is there a world where they're tempted into sinking their mana into flipping the Oddity and then I Vanishing Verse it in response? Because if I let them untap with it, that's just 2 more devotion for Nykthos. I think we do it now. We're going to take, we're going to go to 5 and then we're going to take 3 more from the elves minimum. You got to do what you got to do. I guess this is one of the risks, right? Like, keep 2-lander. We never naturally drew a land. This one came off Pillage the Bog. And now we may not have any outs. We're going to go to 2. What are we even looking for? Sunfall's too slow. If we hit land... Oh my god. No, it's not that. Can we live? Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, if I play double Mana Confluence, there's no way they don't just swing out there. It's such a position of weakness, and it's like getting Stone Rained because we're going to go to 1 no matter what, and at that point we won't be able to tap the Confluences at all. Okay, so we took a risk, and it just didn't pan out. I think I'm okay with that. I think we just run this back. Take the play and yikes. So this has no interaction whatsoever. So if we keep this, what are we saying? We're saying that we think that our turn 4 Niv-Mizzet or turn 4 Bring to Light is better than what they can do by turn 4 on the draw. Maybe it is. Mulliganing with this deck feels so weird because you could very easily just get another 2-lander like we kept in the last game. I feel like this is very punishing on mulligans, even though it has Bring to Light as its main card. I'm going to keep this. I'm a little worried that we just get run over. Start with Rafine's Tower, because the Stomping Ground completes the domain if we draw Leyline Binding and they play an elf. What land to play on 2 will be an interesting decision, because I can play the Stomping Ground tapped and not have to pay to play the Fable. Or I can play the Spire's Headquarters and shock in the Stomping Ground on the following turn. I think a lot of it will depend on what they do and what we draw. And, you know, that is the insight that you guys crave. That's why you come to this channel. It depends. All right, land elf, go. We find Vanishing Verse, which we can't actually cast. That's really awkward. Well, That makes the decision about Spire's headquarters a lot easier, I think. We can, this mana lets us Vanishing Verse, whereas playing Stomping Ground tapped here doesn't. It sucks because next turn there's tension, right? I want to be able to play Fable, but they might also just play like a troll here that I would want a Vanishing Verse first, maybe. It's Kiora instead. So if I do nothing, if I don't kill the elf, they'll have 4/5 mana next turn with Kiora. If I do kill the elf and play tap land, it doesn't really help me enough. Because like they could very easily just have 4-drop Trigger Kiora. I think we are just going to jam the Fable. Because this is a turn 5 turn 4 Bring to Light, which is about the best start that this deck is capable of, and we were on the play. We could Bring to Light for something kind of mopey, like Molten Collapse or something that hits Kiora. I'll be right back. I gotta use the washroom. Okay, I have returned, and it looks like nothing. Looks like I didn't miss a single priority. They are doing the mono green thing. Fascinating choices here. If we discard nothing, what's our turn look like? We attack with the Goblin Shaman, double Vanishing versus the Trailblazer and the Troll. Hit Kiora for 2. Play land, say go. Sorry. The alternative, I suppose, is attack with Goblin Shaman, Bring to Light, fetch Sunfall. I think I'm actually going to discard the Pillage and the Forest. Maybe that's greedy. Yeah, pitching the Forest is greedy with the Niv in hand. I'm just going to discard 1. Ooh. Okay, does that change anything? Next turn they have 3, 4, 5. They could have 6 mana for a Storm the Festival, which would be pretty bad news. So we could Thoughtseize. If we want to Thoughtseize and Vanishing Verse, then we kind of need to throw our Goblin Shaman into the fire. We can also just Niv. I do think that this Devotion needs to be taken care of, though. They had as much mana as they could possibly want last turn and couldn't do much with it. I think I'm going to do the play as described. I think we're going to attack with the Goblin Shaman. Does it make any sense at all to attack Kiora? I don't think so. I think I just attack them. And now... Oh my god, I can't double Vanishing Verse. I don't have the mana. Stupid Stomping Ground. Okay, well, change of plans. I don't think they want to trade the Trailblazer. Mana in this deck is hard. They just take it. Well, now we're certainly Thoughtseizing. They have Cav, Pick Your Poison, Oddity. So Oddity is going to... Either Oddity or Cav are going to draw cards. 2 cards. Cav might find Nykthos. I think it's Cav. And we're going to get Walloped here, I think. Alright, so there's Pick Your Poison, sure. And there's Oddity. To draw 2 cards, that's just so broken. I still think it was right to Vanishing Verse the Troll instead of the Trailblazer, though, because this Goblin Shaman's important. We're going to take 8 down to 8. We have a Blood Crypt. We can attack, Bring to Light, Sunfall. Play Blood Crypt tapped. We can attack Niv. Look at the deck list. Is there anything else that makes any sense? I don't think so. I think we just keep attacking them.
All right, and then green, red, blue, white, black. I guess we don't technically need to pay with Wooburg here. Oh, we do actually, yeah. Just got to follow through, I suppose. So we're at 8. They can attack us at minimum for 2 with that Lair of the Hydra. I think they played everything out. I don't think we have any knowledge of their hand at this point. Oh boy, they found Nykthos. Leyline of the Guild Pact. Very, very not a monocolored permanent. Yeah, I want to play Fable here, but it does just have to be Niv, I think. Playing Fable and holding up the Incubator token is also kind of nice, but if they hadn't played these out and there was a world where I could attack down the Kiora and hold up Vanishing Verse for the Lair on the Crackback, I'd be in. Did we whiff entirely? My god, no hits. I guess I did board out a lot of them. So now we just got a vanilla 6/6 flyer. Not good. And they're off to the races now. They have all the mana in the world. Oh god. They have no cards in hand, though? They're just attacking with a giant-ass Lair of the Hydra? Sure. It does not trample, so we are fine. Round 2. Can also Fable hold up Vanishing Verse? That's probably better. So if they draw up a blank and then just animate Lair again, at least we get to Vanishing Verse exile that, because it does, even though lands are colorless, the Lair becomes green from the ability. Them not snapping things off is probably a really good sign. Probably trying to decide now. Hopefully that means they're trying to decide whether to expose their Lair to possible removal. There's very little in my deck that actually hits it, though. Leyline Binding doesn't hit it. Lair or Lightning Helix definitely doesn't hit it. Molten Collapse is a sorcery. So it would have to be Abrupt Decay or Vanishing Verse. If they had a card that did anything, you imagine they would just slam it, right? That's funny, actually. Each non-land permanent is all colors, so almost everything fades Vanishing Verse, except a Lair of the Hydra if they animate it. Old Growth Troll. Okay. I don't know why it took them so long to cast that, but here we are. So hopefully they animate Lair, swing with everything, thinking the 2 elves get through for free and I have to chump. I guess they won't, because at minimum they can see that I can activate the Incubator token and eat one of the elves. I was hoping they'd let me eat one. No, they do attack with everything. All right. Yeah, discard Fable Passage. If I attack and shock, then I can animate the Incubator, but that doesn't seem worth it. Wow, okay. Should I attack Kiora? This tramples. It seems way too risky. So 8, 11, 12. So even attacking Kiora doesn't really do anything as far as devotion's concerned. It's possible they're holding a Beseiju as well as like a way to deal with this Incubator token. I guess I'm just going to hope they brick for another turn. I would love to have Yorion blink this thing. All right, well, that's not going to happen. And now we have reached the point of the game where I got to go fast. Okay, they did have the Besagio. They should not do this during the damage step, that's for sure. All right, well, unfortunately, they couldn't brick forever, but they found an Elvish Mystic. All right. I think I just want to turn off their card draw. Okay, we have double veto here. That's real bad. Kind of hoping they throw the Cav under the bus here, and they'll probably rebuy a spell, hopefully. No, they're just going to get another Cav. I'm just going to fatal push the troll now. Save time on my clock. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to finish this game. It's going to be real close. Oh, shit. Yeah. That's fine. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose to this stupid. We're gonna get one attack in, and I'm just gonna hope that they misclick or something. I don't even have enough time to attack. I just need to keep passing. My opponent might get MTGO'd here. Wow. Holy crap. I don't know how exactly that works. They have 1 second on the clock. I have 0, but I will take it. Yeah, this remove all your stops trick helps. Okay. For what it's worth, we definitely had a winning position in game 3. And if not for the clock, then it would have been, I think, pretty open and shut. That said, of course, like, I'm low on the clock for a reason. It's perfectly legit to try to time me out, but also perfectly legit for me to do that in response and get a game that I think I deserve to win anyway. All right, 3-0. On to the next one. Okay. Looks like we're on the draw. We've recovered a little bit from our last experience. Opponent does not show a companion and keeps 7. This is definitely a keep. Okay, so it's Amalia. So, oops. Well, crap. I forgot to put my stops back on. Shit. Okay. Well, let's just fix that, I guess. Okay. Well, we just on the draw spotted Amalia a turn, so we're
coming from behind here. Have Wild Growth Walker, all right. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. That basically makes this game 1 at least not great. I wish it defaulted to the same stops every time you started a new match. Because you can like set it in your settings. You could just make a default and then just have it be the same every time. Okay, so here's Amalia, and there's nothing we can realistically do here, right? Savior protects Amalia. Abrupt Decay doesn't get through Savior. So if they have it, they have it. Given that, yeah, I think we're supposed to just Helix something. I mean, we're supposed to Helix, well, we can Helix Amalia and force them to sack the Savior. And normally you'd hit the Savior to force them to sack it. But if they sack it in response to the Helix, I don't gain 3 life. Okay, it doesn't look like they have it. This is one of their more aggro draws. So what are the odds that if I target Amalia, they just let it happen? 0, right? This just ends up being neutral. They found Cord. So oh, yeah, they just had it. Okay, yeah. Okay, well, I don't know that we were beating that anyway. Yeah, if I had actually played my turn there, I would have had Lightning Helix on 2. I would have been able to kill the Savior. They would have played Amalia, had the Amalia Wild Growth Walker, and I had Abrupt Decay. Yeah, it did cost the game. So here we have Technology. Get to bring in the Fatal Pushes and the Thought Seizes and the Quake Bringer. K command doesn't feel so great. Consecrate hitting Amalia could be something, but probably not worth it. A little too narrow. Vetoes are bad. Are they bad? Vanishing Verses don't seem awesome. They hit the Wild Growth Walker, but so do the Fatal Pushes we're bringing in. I think I'd rather have the Vanishing Verses than the Vetoes. Maybe trim some number of beans. Fable's great for actually like putting the Quakebringer in the graveyard. I don't really want to pitch that. 3 more cuts. Is there anything Molten Collapse hits? Like for the Descend mode, I mean. I don't think so. So otherwise, so that just makes it a sorcery speed removal, which we don't really want against Amalia. I'm just gonna cut another beans. All right, kind of behind the 8 ball here. So this doesn't interact at all. Pillage the Bog on 2 if we're willing to shock ourselves. I'm going to mulligan this one. This one I think is just a little too bad. This is also real bad. We need to basically draw probably like 2 lands in our first 3 draw steps. I think this has to go to 5. Keep this back, a Fabled Passage. So I guess the plan wants to be play Bring to Light on 4. It's hard for them to kill us on 3. I'm going to put back the island. Yeah, I mean, I think it is just 3 lands and the turn 4 Bring to Light. Yeah, play out the Fabled Passage and see. Not sure what to fetch with it. Could fetch an island, would make some sense. Swamp would make some sense. Plains or mountain would also make some sense if we're trying to top deck Lightning Helix. But then it duplicates our domain. I think because we have the Cornucopia, we want it to be one of the types we don't have. And given that we have a bunch of Fatal Pushes and Thought Seizes, we probably want to make it a swamp. All right, well, now we'll just play the Sacred Foundry tapped and hope they don't set up the turn 3 kill. Well, Bat's annoying. Not all the versions of Amalia are running Bats and Thoughtseizes, but this one apparently is. Luckily, Cornucopia and Fable do very similar things in this spot. They both just threaten to bring to light on turn 4. I don't feel the need to reveal that we drew that. So barring more discard, where all systems go on bring to light next turn. And it's probably just Sunfall. Okay, black, green. This one has to be blue. And this can be red. And so the question becomes, what are we fetching? Because if we're fetching Niv, this gains us 5. We'll have Bring to Light the following turn. I don't feel super under threat. I think I'm getting Niv. Yeah, Niv Reborn, I guess. And now we get to gain 5 off the Cornucopia. And what do we get? Yeah, Niv post-board, at least the way I've been sideboarding, has not been... I suppose Bring to Light also just hits Quakebringer, right? That totally turns it off. Yeah, I think it's tempting to Vanishing first the Bat and then cast the Fable. But I don't think it's safe to do that. Because they have 2 pieces already. Amalia just domes us. So I guess that's what we're in for. Green, black, blue, red, white. And this one we will accept. And this is just a problem for them. Because even if they kill it, it goes to the graveyard and it still does its thing. Oh no, the gain life is only when it's in play. Okay. I misread this card at first. It does still do something in the graveyard, but it never will. Because we have to control a giant. And I think that's the only one in the deck. Fatal Push is pretty good. And we just keep jamming Bring to Light, right? Maybe. I mean, we can also Fatal Push, Fable. What could they possibly have that hits this? Skyclave Apparition doesn't hit it. Fatal Push doesn't hit it. I still think it's just Bring to Light. And we'll get the Niv-Mizzet Supreme. So we'll decline this one. That's the one I want. I think I'm just into attacking. And we just never ever put Quakebringer at risk. Chord for 3. What do you get for 3? Sentinel. Yep, sure. Okay, so that means that there's really nothing to fear anymore, right? There's no creature in their deck that ETB kills Quakebringer. There's no Ravenous Chupacabra or anything. So they need to have basically Doomblade. But they're going to go to 13 in our upkeep, and we're going to hit them for 11 in the air. And then they need to kill us. Because then if Quakebringer is still in play, yeah, that's fine, whatever. They could have a Ganjo. That's the only thing I can think of. And I think that is how we lose. By exposing ourselves to that. Sorry guys, dog's kind of losing their mind. So we have 5 mana here. I think I'm actually going to Vanishing Verse the Bat. because Vanishing Verse doesn't hit Amalia. Fatal Push does. And now we even have the Jumpstart from Niv-Mizzet, so we can flash back the Vanishing Verse. I guess we can't actually. We don't have the right mana for that. Yeah, sure. Okay, so now we know a little bit. We know to actually get the Quakebringer in play. It doesn't just do its thing. Do I want to change anything on the draw? I don't think so. Sup, dog? I heard you like Thoughtseize. So I got some Thoughtseize so you could Thoughtseize while you Thoughtseize. I think it's a keep, honestly. Thoughtseize you. What are we working with? Double Amalia, Aven Interrupter, Prosperous Innkeeper. So next turn Amalia comes down. We can Fatal Push her. Aven Interrupter is probably the most threatening card here, given that we have the answers to the other two Amalias. I guess if we take Aven Interrupter and they slam Amalia, we Fatal Push Amalia, and we don't have an untapped black to Thoughtseize the other one, then they will have two Amalias in play. But Aven Interrupter will just stop any of our stuff from happening. I guess if we take Amalia here and they jam Amalia next turn, then we can Fatal Push it without fear. And then we know this is here. But this is the only thing that deals with Bring to Light. There's second Thoughtseize, though. You can Thoughtseize to force out the Interrupter later. Sure. I think I've talked myself into taking Amalia. Okay, so they just play out the Innkeeper. That's fine. Find Sunfall, which honestly isn't bad. Amalia, Interrupter, Confluence, Mystery card. We can't stop them from Amaliaing next turn. So I think that makes this just play Fabled Passage, say go. And if they play... So if they play Amalia, then I think we fetch a Mountain. And if they don't, I think we fetch a Swamp. Because we want to be able to hold up Fatal Push forever, but we also want to be able to Thoughtseize starting soon. That's annoying. So we can Fatal Push in response, hit the Innkeeper. If they Thoughtseize, they want to play Amalia, they'll take Fatal Push. Like, do I have to act now, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. If I Fatal Push in response, then they'll flash in the Aven Interrupter. Yikes, this makes things so much harder. If I let it resolve, is there any world where they don't just jam Amalia? I don't think so. So I guess we're hitting this. And now we can fetch red so that if we draw Fabled, then we can play it immediately. So now, this is a very interesting spot for them. They take... What do they take? They took Thoughtseize. And here's Amalia. All right. So two cards. One of them's Aven Interrupter. One of them's a Mystery. 5-drop is not what we were going for. Yeah, because now they're going to get to untap. We buy Yorion, of course. Now they're just going to untap and they'll have Aven Interrupter up forever. And they know the Sunfall is here as well. Well, another 5-drop, so not much we can do. We do have to fetch planes with Fabled Passage here if we want to be able to threaten Sunfall next turn. Actually an interesting spot, right? Like, we're probably dead no matter what, but in terms of whether to crack the fetch for a planes, yeah, we're just dead, right? But like, it's interesting whether you want to keep the number of lands in your deck high so that you'll have 5 mana next turn, or you're more likely to, or if you fetch a plane so that any white source, okay, so that any white source off the top allows you to cast Sunfall. So they fetch bat, I guess, to try to make sure that I don't have any interaction to stop Amalia. So we're going to take 3 life gain. Amalia will go up. Now that the Sunfall's gone, I'm pretty confident we don't crack the Fable Passage here. Extraction Specialist stayed on the top as well. Okay. So their hand is Aven Interrupter, and they have an Extraction Specialist on top of their deck. Okay, well, if we just draw 5, drop 5, drop 5, drop 5, drop, then we can't win. Yeah, that sucks. It does feel like punting away that first game cost the entire match. That's cute. So they can throw the bat into the graveyard and bring it back with the specialist. So we go to 7. They have 5 power in play. The Aven Interrupter hits for 2. I don't know what we even need to draw, like Otawara. Yeah, I mean, we can't not cast this. They'll flash in the Aven Interrupter. At least we can make them fear Fatal Push. But this is lethal, and I don't think that there's... Even if they think we have Fatal Push, I don't think there's a world where they... Oh, well... Actually, you know what? Sure. Go ahead. Behold the glory that is having drawn almost as many Bring to Lights as lands. Okay, that stunk. Mostly, I mean, entirely my fault for throwing away game 1. Game 3, I think, was... The writing was on the wall for that one. Okay, last match. All right. On the draw to round out the league, Nico Venerio is a name that I vaguely recognize. Not enough to have any idea what they're playing, though. Okay. Opponent kept 7. We will also keep 7, just because it has stable mana and early interaction, and we'll just have faith that we'll draw something good off the top of the deck. Here's Blood Crypt, so possible vampires. If it is... All right, we'll play the Xander's Lounge and say go. I was thinking, oh, well, I'll just play Temple Garden, and then next turn I'll play Sulphur Falls, and I'll have Lightning Helix, but it doesn't work that way. I could have played Sulphur Falls first, and then shocked in Temple Garden, but that seems counterproductive. Yeah, because I can still shock in the Temple Garden here. Next turn, they kept 7, right? So they probably have the Splinter Twin thing. They kept 7 and didn't have turn 1 discard. Turn 2 Blood Tithe Harvester is here. If they play Sorin Vein Ripper, I'm going to want to Lightning Helix this before the Vein Ripper touches the board anyway. So I'm just going to do this now so I don't take 2 points of damage from it. Yep, so here's Sorin. Oh, what? So it is in fact not Vein Ripper, but instead Kalitas, which is much, much worse. So now we have the question of which do we play? Do we play Fable or do we play Cornucopia? Both of them threaten to bring to light next turn. Fable's Goblin token is a lot easier to interact with for them than the Cornucopia is. So even though Fable, I think, is just better in a vacuum, I'm going to play out the Cornucopia. You know, we've kind of got our own Splinter Twin thing going on. If they had Vein Ripper, it would be interesting. As it is, if they don't have a way to discard the Bring to Light, then I think we're in pretty excellent shape. Nice draw. You know that came off the top, or it would have been cast a long time ago. So now all of a sudden we're back to pretty crappy shape. I mean, not crappy shape. We're in fine-ish shape, but no longer solidly ahead. I don't know what they're thinking so hard about. Like, Bring to Light is the take. I guess you would only think this long if you had multiples. Did you happen to draw 2 Thoughtseizes? No. Oh, well, All right. So if we shock in Blood Crypt, then we play Niv. We'll go to 13. They say the worst case happens. They kill Niv, animate both Mutavaults, attack with Kalitas, sacrifice with Sorin. We'll take 3, 5, 8, 11. I think we're still alive even in the worst case. We can also just Fable and Lightning Helix Sorin. And that's pretty safe. The only thing that could happen is they could Thoughtseize the Niv. Clay just cares about non-token, right? Yeah. You know what? I honestly think that it's Fable and Helix. And we can do the Helix on their turn so that we gain life from the Cornucopia. Yeah, and we'll just kill Sorin in their upkeep, I think. They could have a second Sorin. That would make some sense the way the game is gone. But if they replay that, then that means they're not animating the Mutavaults, and we'll probably get to cast Niv next turn. They didn't crack the blood either. So they liked the 2 cards that were in their hand. Animating the vault. All right. I mean, I'm down to take 6 here. We're going to gain 5 just for casting Niv next turn. They did have the second Sorin. Do you also have the Vein Ripper? No. So I think we just discard Rafine's Tower. Goblin can swing in at Sorin. We can cast Niv, maybe find Helix. If we find untapped land here, sure. Or that. That's also pretty good. So we'll send this in at Sorin, I suppose. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe I was supposed to send it at them because I can leyline binding the Sorin. Okay, so red, blue, black, white, green. We most certainly will gain 5 life. Pretty good hits. So now, the only thing I'm not sure of is, do we leyline binding Sorin now and admit that the earlier attack was just a mistake? We can leyline binding Kalitas. If they have Vein Ripper, they can already just cast it, so Sorin isn't doing all that much good. Maybe I wait for them to plus on Kalitas and then leyline binding it then. Oh, yeah, all right, that works. So, Rakdos Vampires. Pretty sure I'm into Fatal Pushes. Abrupt Decay hitting Sorin is great. Vanishing Verse hits almost everything. Helix. Maybe Helix on the draw isn't as good. But it does gain a bunch of life, and life total super relevant in the matchup. Pretty sure I don't like K command here. Consecrate and consume. Well, Consecrate Consume, yeah, that's, I guess, why this is one of the cards in the deck, right? You just get the 4 mana Edict, hit the Vein Ripper. So maybe that's okay. And the rest of this just seems like a mid-rangey grind fest. Like if neither of us Splinter Twin off, then it just comes down to who gets the most value. I think it's actually one of these Fatal Pushes. I don't think we need all 4. I considered bringing in Quakebringer, but it doesn't seem like the life gain is such an incidental part of their deck. I think this is what I'm going to go with. Okay. So no early interaction. Let's see what they do. If they keep 7, they don't. We can be pretty sure we're going to get Thoughtseize. They're probably going to take Beans, but like, I like this hand. And against the Thoughtseize deck, I don't really want to mulligan anyway. Certainly not functional hands. We've seen how badly that can go. Duress. Okay. So what do you take? I assume Beans. It is Beans. Omnath is not a bad draw at all. It does mean that we should be a little reluctant to play this swamp, because what I would love to be able to do is cast Omnath on 4 with the Cornucopia or a Fable Treasure, and then be able to play a land immediately. I mean, okay, so on the one hand, this is bad, right? They double Thoughtseized us. But on the other, they mull to 6 and double Thoughtseized us, and they're not contributing to the board. Yeah. I think we're just going to play the Stomping Ground here, because probably the most busted thing we can do is play Cornucopia next turn, then Omnath plus Fabled Passage. So if they Thoughtseize, Sora, and Vein Ripper, then that is an excellent 6 cards. Instead, it's Fable. We find Vanishing Verse. Vanishing Versing the Fable is actually, like, pretty tempting. But I don't think anything is better than the Omnath Fabled Passage threat. So go ahead, do your worst. Their hand's obviously pretty awkward, right? They haven't been able to muster much pressure. They discard 2 lands, so they have 2 fresh cards off the top. 3 fresh cards off the top, probably. And a ton of mana. They didn't animate the Mutavaults. Buster. Okay. Okay. We like that. So, red, blue, white, green. Here's Omnath. Yes, we will use Ancient Cornucopia's ability. Here's Fabled Passage. And I mean, this is just a massacre, right? So we fetch Plains, and we can Leyline Binding, Vanishing Verse, and still have 3 left over to buy Yorion. Oh no, Omnath doesn't make Wooburg, it just makes 5. Sag. Oh, and we don't have full domain anyway. And we don't have black. That's the other thing. So we don't get to Vanishing Verse anything. Okay, so that's worse. We'll certainly just eat the Bank Buster. That's by far the biggest threat to us. For some reason, this card just feels like it should make Wooburg to me. All right. Well, feels like we can't allow them to untap with this. Don't think I'm interested in letting them double block Omnath, so especially when I'm threatening to blink it with Yorion. They are going to get to look 2 more cards deep with this Fable and possibly find Thoughtseize and take away Yorion, and then we'll need to draw cards. But, wow, they pitch a Sorin and a Blackleaf Cliffs, so they have double Sorin probably. Duress is a swing and a miss. And they're hellbent. No cards in hand from the opponent. And we're going to get to have some fun. All right. Yeah, we'll just... Oops. No, I don't want to tap like this, actually. I can learn my lesson. Because I can flicker this Cornucopia. No reason to leyline flicker the Leyline Binding, I don't think. If I play untapped land, then I can, at the very least, cycle this Ravine's Tower. I think that's worth it. All right. Would love for them to Thoughtseize me now. Wow. All right, so that isn't great. Huh? Okay. I mean, sure. I guess I'll take it. 4-1 with a strong possibility that it could have been 5-0 if I hadn't skipped the entire first turn of game 1 against Amalia. But overall, like, very solid showing from the deck. Pull this back up. So what was it? It was Rogues, Green, Green, Amalia, Vampires. So like a pretty good sampling of the meta. Green, Vampires, and Amalia are probably the top 3 decks right now, I would say. And we held our own against them, obviously not being particularly strong with the deck. So pretty happy with how this turned out. Let me know what you guys thought. Again, trying to make this a full-time thing, trying to make YouTube monetization status, so likes and subscriptions and comments and everything helps me a lot. So do that if you feel like it, and then I will see you guys next time.